Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researchers Celebrities. Today we have Dr. Ashwani Kumar with us, and we are honored to have Sir at this platform after following couple of times. Now, when we have him, I would like to start with a brief introduction about Sir, and then we will go on with his achievements, accomplishments in the conversation. Sir has done his bachelor's in zoology from Punjab University and pursued masters in zoology with a specialization in entomology from Punjab University. Then he joined PhD program in zoology at Punjab Agriculture University, specialization in entomology. Joined National Institute of Malaria Research, what we know now. At that time, it was Malaria Research Center, and then worked there till he became a director, and then switched institutes, served in so many committees as director or in lead roles. With this brief introduction, I will say thank you very much, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule for Researcher Celebrity Conversation.
It is my pleasure, Dr. Raja, to be with you and hello, viewers.
We always start our conversation with a question that how and when you decided to become a researcher.
Okay, this is interesting. After my education, say around 11th standard, I made up my mind that I should go into science stream. And in 12th standard, I actually fell in love with this subject of zoology. And I was very clear in my mind that I'm going to make career out of it. And I joined BSc, as you have already introduced me, BSc honors in Punjab University. Because I belong to Punjab, I grew up in Chandigarh, and this university is also in Chandigarh. So I joined Punjab University. And I went on to doing masters there in the same university with entomology as specialization. And then in 1983, decided to change the university. That was my own decision. I could have pursued PhD there. Uh, I was a good student. I was a gold medalist. And so I thought of changing the institution to widen my experience as far as research is concerned. And I came to know that Punjab Agricultural University, which has College of Basic Sciences and Humanities, uh, runs PhD program, and they often provide fellowship to the PhD students. So I joined the laboratory of Professor V.C. Kapoor, who was a renowned entomologist and a taxonomist. And so I joined his lab. What a wonderful guide he was. And he gave me a free hand to choose the subject that I would be interested in, either taxonomy or bioecology or a mix of the two. And I preferred mix of both taxonomy and bioecology, which paid off subsequently, in my career in understanding entomology in a wider perspective. So, and I may also mention, Dr. Raja, that there was a co-guide of mine, uh, Professor M.S. Mahal, another very gentleman, guide and a very strict person, but very disciplined at the same time, who was a wonderful guide, co-guide, who was a specialist in bioecology. So this combination of Professor V.C. Kapoor and Dr. M.S. Mahal was a great combination, to guide me in the PhD program. And so, so that's how, in the early phase, I decided to be in science. And then I chose science as a career and build it up to, and I was very clear that I would be doing PhD. And I have to at least complete my doctorate straight away after MSc and then seek employment. And if you are interested or our viewers are interested, I must say that In the first interview itself, I was successful in securing research officer's post in the Malaria Research Center of Indian Council of Medical Research. And I was lucky enough to work with the doyen who was so renowned in malaria research, Professor V.P. Sharma, who was not only Padma Shri but also Padma Bhushan. And he had a wonderful research program of bioenvironmental control of malaria. And he had set up 10 field stations with headquarters in Delhi. So I was very lucky to work with him. And so I was, as all other scientists, I was sent for training to a training center which was in Gujarat, Nadiad. And that was one of the first field stations that was opened. And its purpose was to train all the new recruitees into bioenvironmental control program. And after a brief 2 months training, I was posted in a place called Berhampur in Odisha. It's a coastal area. And then I worked there for a year, and I proposed the shifting of that center from Berhampur to a highly malarious place, which is close to Rourkela, but our center was in Rourkela in Odisha. And that was really a learning ground as far as malaria is concerned, because it was a highly malarious, hyper endemic area for malaria, where we had three malaria parasites being transmitted out of four at that time known. This is Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium vivax, and Plasmodium malariae. So a lot of malaria in the tribal areas surrounding Rourkela city. So, but very soon, in about a year, I was asked by Dr. V.P. Sharma to move to Goa, which is on the western side, western coast. This was eastern coast, Odisha, and that's the western coast of India, and a very beautiful touristic place in the country and world over well-known place, as you know. And but the problem here was that there was a huge outbreak of malaria which had happened in the year 1986 and became very acute in 1987, 88. And then government of Goa requested through Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, to open a center of ICMR to help them contain this huge problem, because there were thousands of people suffering from malaria in the capital city, Panaji or Panjim, which is called. And there were several deaths there due to malaria. So it was threatening the very, tourism on which the economy of this place was dependent. Even today, it is dependent on tourism. And it was at that time, it was a new problem. It was not much was known about this problem there. So I had the privilege at the young age of 28, opening a center there, recruiting staff and training them, and of course, leading them in order to understand the nitty-gritty of problem of malaria in that place scientifically, and scientifically dissect the problem, and then, of course, implement interventions by dividing the whole town into sectors. So we made divided. I still remember I divided the town into 13 sectors, and each sector would have the supervisors and the workers, and they knew what to do first. So first we did a lot of reconnaissance of breeding sites of vectors. First we identified what the vector was. We came to know it was Anopheles stephensi. And so it was an urban malaria vector, as you would know. And so where was it all breeding? So we zeroed down on number of breeding sites where it was actually breeding. And we realized that most of the cases of malaria are in and around construction complexes, because a lot of construction sites were there in the town, and migrant workers had come practically from 20 states of India and union territories. So it was migration problem coupled with prolific vector breeding, and this combination led to a huge outbreak. So that was a big challenge at that time. I mean, for me also as a beginner, it was a huge challenge. But then I took this head on. I At one point of time, let me be very honest, I thought I should run away, because it was such a huge expectation from me that I thought, why I am into at this young age into this kind of a burden situation. But something within me said that, I had read somewhere that winners never quit and quitters never win. So I thought, if I will quit here, I will never be able to win in my life. So I thought of staying on, and I think that paid off. Within 2 years, we could manage this problem. And in the third year, the cases of malaria came down drastically from close to 6,000 recorded cases to about 200 cases. And so this was a success story as far as early career was concerned, and very satisfying, because so many people were suffering. And we used to run a clinic there, and we had long lines of people getting uh, to our center for getting their blood examined and confirming whether they were suffering from malaria or not. So almost 30 to 40 people, 40% of people whom we tested at some point of time were suffering from malaria, either Vivax malaria or falciparum malaria. And it was a tough challenge. And then finally, in 3 years' time, by controlling vectors where it was breeding, we could manage this issue. So, so it was a very satisfying in the end, this situation. So I think, and after that, government of Goa approached central ministry to make this center permanent.
Mhm.
And I'm happy to say that that center is still functional
Yeah.
in Goa. And I was in charge of that center until the year 2019 for 30 years.
Mhm.
And for uh, that work that I had carried out, I'm proud to say I became a household name in Goa,
Mhm.
because I used to go myself in the field. I used to cross check the work of my workers, not only plan it, but also go to the field and show them how to work and all that, train them in the field. And since people were very curious at that time, they would want to know that who this man is with so many people and all that. So often they would know. And so that was a very rewarding exercise, Dr. Kushwaha. So,
Absolutely. So
yeah.
this is, I think, I must say that this is the dream come true for most of the public health, worker, being an entomologist or working with dissecting a vector-borne disease itself, like where not a lot is known, as you mentioned, and you have accomplished it. And this is something, also one of the things what people say, that researchers never gave up, as you mentioned about winners. Being a researcher is what also keeps you going, and you have gone long enough, like starting the center as a temporary one and then making it permanent, joining is there as a research officer and retiring from the same institute which you have built on. This is something which is very motivational for the people who are now entering into the field, that what you have achieved and the milestones you have achieved. Let's talk about the first stage. Now, when you were a fresh PhD student, joined
Mhm.
at then Malaria Research Center as a center, and then developed Goa unit, became the director of that. You have seen so many transitions and transformations of research from a
Yeah.
PhD student to a guide where you have mentored so many PhD students. I would like to ask two things which have never changed in research and two things which has completely changed when you were a PhD student and when you were guiding a PhD student.
A very interesting question. Uh, so first, let me make a little bit of correction here. I became director grade scientist in National Institute of Malaria Research in 2019 before moving as director of Vector Control Research Center in Pondicherry.
Mhm.
So I was director of Vector Control Research Center. In short, we call it VCRC for over 4 years. Another great institute in the country, world renowned WHO collaborating center. So coming back to your question as to what hasn't changed and what has changed. What hasn't changed, in my opinion, is that we we all need to focus on the problem, which as a researcher, uh, you need to really very well plan all that enterprise or research. If you take it as an enterprise, you have to really plan extremely well. And that hasn't changed. The disease, as long as disease persists, the basics would not change. Then what is that which is changing? That what is changing is the tools and the manner in which we work. Dr. Kushwaha, when we used to earlier make presentations, we used to make transparencies
Yes.
and we used to use overhead projectors. And it was a very tedious job. And then came suddenly, Excel program and the PowerPoint presentations, and life became so much easier. And then also we had a lot of, online statistical tools that became available with to the scientists. So much has changed. And now the transformative changes that have taken place are mind boggling, like with artificial intelligence and machine learning. Uh, it has changed the way you are thinking, you are synthesizing. At the click of button, you have so much information that comes to you. All these things are, I think, driving the science in a very fast manner. The other thing is that in India, as a country, we are now emerging as a uh, economic power. And there is a clarion call by our prime minister who says that we should make in India, we should be self reliant. And in this changing economic scenario, there is more emphasis on translational research, implementation research, translational research. We hardly used to talk during those times about the translation, but now it has become a common, area of discussion in scientific discourse that we should not only have impactful science which helps the society, but we should also bring on the table the prototypes or the products. So that's very, very important now, so that we can, uh, because any country would need local solutions.
Yes.
I mean, we can, of course, adopt technology from overseas, but that may not necessarily be appropriate in your situation. So we need to have our own inventions, local inventions, depending upon local needs,
So,
local requirements.
mhm.
So I would say the very shift of thinking from, say, solving the problems and in during those times. For example, in our case, vector-borne diseases, communicable diseases used to be a huge burden during my young age 30 years ago. And we have seen that now the lifestyle changes have taken over. with this sedentary lifestyle and all that. But yet, new tools and new treatment modalities, diagnostics, vaccines, they have given us now new energy or new hope that we can eliminate some of these diseases. And you may be knowing that government of India is trying to eliminate leishmaniasis, filariasis, and malaria.
So true.
And yeah, so the thinking has changed from the prevention, control to now elimination. That's a big shift, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And from a business as usual to bring product and prototypes on the table and commercialize them, translational research, and transferring the technology to the industry
Mhm.
is extremely important. That's a big shift, in my opinion, Dr.
Absolutely.
Adam.
In fact, you just so you touched upon these things like when a person is working with vector-borne diseases where not much is known. So while doing the fundamental research, you are actually making the impact in people's life. Like now, the one who was not supposed to get diagnosed so easily. Now you are helping them diagnose. You are helping them by giving them the medication. So the translational like now when like all in this country in this new fast-paced technology world, people talk about translational research, implementational research so much that the underlying fundamental research, like now when you started working at Goa. Not much was about known about vector. So whatever work you have done was fundamental as well as translational at the same time. Because now
Yeah,
people, their lives
exactly.
are getting impacted directly from whatever you are doing.
Exactly.
And that
Exactly.
is how I think a country starts from prevention to control, if not, and then to elimination and
Yeah.
pioneers. Yeah.
Yes, I am very happy to say that government of Goa is doing extremely well now, and they are very close to elimination of malaria with their efforts now. But at that time, it was a huge challenge. So that these studies gave a lot of confidence to the public health authorities to move forward and then make a huge impact by eliminating a disease which can be very debilitating, which can kill. There were a lot of deaths at that time.
Yeah. So, sir, I would like to know your thoughts and guidance for the PhD students who are either taking up already, all either they are thinking to take up PhD as a challenge or are already going through this. Now, your guidance to those young, enthusiastic researchers who are preparing themselves for the rest of their life, because as we have seen in your case, your love for zoology was early in your lifetime,
Yeah.
and now even now you are enjoying it. So what kept
Yes.
you going, and based on your experiences, what you can suggest to the next generation of researchers?
Yeah. Number one, clarity of mind and clarity of purpose. So your mind is very clear and you are very sure about what you want to do, and then give your 100%. And I always believed, Dr. Kushwa, I will only tell what I practiced. I'm
Hmm.
not a preacher. So I have no right to preach unless I practice those things. Hard work is the key. You may have a very high IQ. If it is not backed up by hard work, it will not take us anywhere. So hard work is the fundamental mantra. Any PhD student who has decided to do PhD, he or she should pull all stops and immerse into the PhD program that he or she is pursuing and give your more than 100%. And I tell you, and another thing, be very honest about your research. Never manipulate your data. If you are not getting results as desired by you, First of all, never have a preconceived notion before starting an experiment that I should expect or get these results. No, science is about all possibilities. 100 is also a data, 5 is also data, 0 is also data. Few things do not work. And you are proving scientifically that these things are not working. And that itself is a science. As Edison failed, I think several hundred times, maybe 1700 times before he could discover the tungsten, somebody told him that why are you doing it now? It is so many hundred times you are failing. He says, no, I am not failing. I am sure now all those things that I invented did not work. And finally he hit upon a on tungsten or the element, the alloy that produce light. And today, how much difference it has made to the world. Imagine a world without light, lamp. So he did not manipulate, he accepted that as a result finding. So what my uh, request to the young minds would be very honest about your science.
Absolutely.
And if you are unsure, please repeat your experiment one time, twice, thrice, and then be sure. And then only once you are sure, you should emphatically claim what you have seen and publish without any fear.
Absolutely. And I think this is to start with, and that's why we always say that the hypothesis for the any research, either it is PhD research or any different projects to be led. I think one key lesson which I have learned, being in field for almost 2 decades now, that if you are not open-minded, you cannot call yourself as a researcher. Because that is
Exactly.
the first thing which research teaches you, that what was true yesterday might not stand again true tomorrow, just because what you are observing today and what you are going to
Yes.
communicate
You are
might
spot
change
on.
the field.
Yes, you are spot on. Spot on. And and also the researcher should communicate, should talk to peers, should openly discuss if they have problem at hand with their guides with open mind. Sometimes they are very hesitant or they are fearful. If I would talk to my guide, then probably he might or she might not like it. But I think I was very fortunate, Dr. Kushwaha, that my guides were always very supportive and they were very friendly. So I could communicate with them whenever I had an issue. And this is very important. Both mentor and mentee should have that kind of relationship. That if mentee, if he has any problem, and there's a lesson for the mentors also, they should also give space to their students wherein they are able to express themselves freely. And laboratories or institutes should have that kind of open environment where this exchange is possible and also allow them to have a lateral exchange within the institute or within the department or within the universities. They should be free to discuss their issues with other professors, or there should be scope for this kind of lateral discussion, not the horses with the blinkers on. Then you would not be able to have a side vision or lateral vision. You'll only have tunnel vision. So this is extremely important for the researchers to follow and never get disheartened,
Yeah.
never get depressed. There are many situations students can become depressed or demotivated. One thing which I did and I experienced is that I, till now, till today, I always motivated myself.
Mhm.
You must have heard some players saying that I backed up myself. I
Mhm.
backed up myself, which means other means that I motivated myself.
So true.
The students must motivate themselves, and there should be self belief that one day I will achieve it. And I'm sure there are many successful young men and women who know it already and who are doing this. But those who are not able to come out of this situation, they should talk to their peers and they should also learn this practice of backing themselves up, trusting their own abilities. And self motivation is the key in this case.
So, sir, this brings us to a very important question, especially given the scenario of India. You mentioned about mentor-mentee relationship. You did mention about the burnouts in the researchers, especially at this fast-paced research where everyone wants the results, every day, like, okay, it should work, it should work. This gives a lot of pressure to these students. And then in some of the cases, there are n number of cases in India where mentees did not receive what they wanted from their mentors, and vice versa also. There are cases both ways. But what you suggest to the student who's going through a tough time and is unable to communicate with either their supervisor or with their peers, because now in India we started talking about mental health of a PhD student or a researcher being a postdoc also. And I think if we'll go 10 years or 20 years before, nobody was talking about that. Even it was important at that same time, also equally important, now even more important, because now we are seeing dropouts in their PhDs after 3 years, 4 years, sometimes even after 5 years, and in very sad cases when a student commits suicide. So, how they
Oh,
should cope up with those pressures and how you can guide them that to give up on disappointment, but not to give up on research.
yeah. So it's really, first of all, very, very sad situation where students have to take extreme steps and end up their life, which is so precious, must not happen. So I think it's not one-sided. It is, I think, a two-way road.
Yes.
Many a times, students are in such scenario where expectations run very high and they are under constant pressure and they end up becoming depressed and with no one to talk about their problems and woes. And there could be also multiple type of problems, not only the laboratory scenario, it could be personal issues, it could be familial issues, family issues they are going through. So there could be mix of things, okay, here. So a variety of issues plaguing the mind of a young man or woman. I think here we need a lot of support from the colleagues, the peers, and the mentors. Mentors should ensure the successful mentors or smart mentors, they can pick up signals very quickly
Yes.
in their laboratory. If they see someone is now off mood or not uh, in the expected mode of functioning for for a few days or some days and for too long, that means there is something happening there, wrong happening there. They should pick up these signals, try to talk to the student, try to be supportive, and of course try to bring out such a student out of that situation. And if necessary, there are counselors there. The counseling can be the next step, to take them to counselors and let them talk freely with the counselors, psychologists, and then help them emerge from that situation. That will be really helpful. And if the cause is the very mentor, sometimes mentors are very difficult people and they are very tough people, or they don't like a certain student and all that. I think there the students are in a very difficult situation and they are made to quit, or they quit, they decide to quit after having spent a considerable amount of time, say, as you said, 3 years and all that. It's a very painful situation. And I think institutions of eminence or higher learning should have the responsibility of recruiting the right people in the faculty with the right frame of mind. And there should be programs for them also as to how they have to limit their expectations, or how they have to handle their students who may be very sensitive. All are not same. I mean,
True.
background of all the students is normally they have come from a typical situation
Mhm.
in their lives, and no two persons will have the same experiences in life. So you have to deal with variety of students. I, for example, had 15 students, PhD students, who successfully completed. And my mantra was to give them a lot of space. First thing was to ask, I mean, give them a few weeks to adjust to the lab, and they would talk to the people around, and then ask them to now surf literature and write a review on the problem, PhD problem related. You would say, why review? Review will familiarize them technically as to what is the advanced state of the art in this particular field as of now. So these students will, and I mean, and also give them pep up talk, tell them that, I will not be over administering you. You have to grow in this field. And of course, I am available for any situation and guide them as and when necessary. And and see that they successfully come through their PhD program. Provide them all the facilities and all that. And there are there are ways to talk to them in a politer way, in a conveying the same things. And I have always realized that is more impactful than be harsh with them. So if you are very polite and tell them, make them sit in front of you and discuss the thing and just tell them politely, they take it very kindly and seriously. This is my personal experience.
Absolutely. And I think this is more of being, as you mentioned about, like, if you are very clear in your expectation to start with, what you want to do with the PhD and what advisors' expectations are from you, it solves half of the problems of PhD by itself. And then
Exactly.
the role of a mentor, like, sometimes what I have experienced, and we had these conversation at Researcher Celebrity, that mentors can see the potential which a student is yet not aware of. They are
Exactly.
discovering themselves while this process, and mentors are there who can identify. And that's why, in recent scenario in India, where mentors are, recommending the student to join another lab of their interest because they are not the best fit for each other. And with this, I think, with this upcoming attitude, the research is getting uh, all the fruits. The researchers are getting what they want, and the humans as a whole are getting benefited from all of this open mindedness.
Very, very good example. Yes, very nice. Yes, you put
Now,
it.
Now, sir, I would like to know the thoughts of yours when people recently also start talking about women in STEM. We also ran a special series for almost a month where we had researchers happen to be women all over the world, wherever we were able to. How this paradigm shift has been working in India and where you see the future of this going.
So, like elsewhere, I mean, there is absolute freedom for women in India to excel in any field. As you may be knowing, I will give you certain example, and then I'll come to the real question. So, very recently, uh, Vice Admiral Aarti Sarin has taken over as Director General of Armed Forces Medical Services. So this is an example where women can reach at the top. I have traveled in certain flights where crew is completely women. All the pilots, co-pilots, even I do not know about the flight engineer, whether male or female, but the steward, the flight crew, all were women. And women are encouraged in combat roles, even in Indian Army. And you take any field, whether it is civil services, whether it is educational sphere of education, research, women are excelling. They
Yes,
are outsmarting men in India, and they're very hardworking. One thing about women is they're very sincere, hardworking, and they are kind of go-getters, very successful. They have a different mental state than men or boys or young men, and they're therefore very successful in what they do. And and this is a great thing to happen to any nation. And whether it is civil services, whether it is defense, whether it is research, whether it is education, whether it is politics,
yeah,
if you have uh, contribution by women in real sense, then the country will never fail.
I
The
agree.
country will progress.
Hmm.
One woman, if she's educated and she's in a key position, can transform all the generations that will follow.
So true.
And they, I think, tend to understand situation much better because women do a lot of multitasking
Hmm.
day in and day out. From the time they wake up in the morning till they sleep, they do a lot of multitasking. They are wired that way. Their minds are wired that way. So therefore, I have a big hope that with rise of women power
Hmm.
in India, our country is going to benefit a lot and leaps and bounds with this contribution from the fairer sex in
Absolutely.
India.
Nice. So this brings us to the next topic of the conversation that we did acknowledge the recognition of women in STEM in India and which stands true for the rest of the world also. The recognition of researchers like in general for higher civilian awards, as you mentioned about Dr. V.P. Sharma, who was a Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan also. When we talk about like scientific accreditations, like Nobel, yes, it is the other extreme of it. But the rest of 99% of the researchers goes unacknowledged. And that is one of those barriers which we personally felt at Empowering Science Foundation is there, that researchers did not get enough of acknowledgements. And with that idea, we started this conversation, this series as Researcher Celebrity, where we celebrate researchers. Your thoughts and suggestions that how we can make it more impactful, where a young enthusiastic mind who want to become a doctor or an engineer, now we can motivate them to become a scientist also.
So first of all, I must congratulate Researcher Celebrities program for actually talking about research. For example, this dialogue itself, when it becomes viral, it will really help a few in understanding the research and the dynamics of research as you are discussing. And recognition in any field, and most importantly, science, is extremely motivational. And so, young career award, mid career award, and the senior scientist awards. There are number of award categories and a variety of awards are available. But I feel that there should be a wider recognition, more programs, award programs, recognition of young minds. So I will dissect this problem in two ways. One is that there are national awards. Okay, they are of the highest order, right? Now, for example, now Government of India has started giving awards at the hands of President of India for the best researchers. And incidentally, a lady, Dr. Pragya Yadav from National Institute of Virology from ICMR, got award from the President of India because she isolated the virus that led to the formation, making of a vaccine, co-vaccine. And she's a very dynamic researcher as it is. So when President of India recognizes a researcher, not only you are motivating that particular person, making him or her celebrity, a lot of others will try to emulate her and would think that why can't I be in her place? So a lot of motivation goes into it. Institutional awards are very, very important. When I was the director of Vector Control Research Center, I used to find occasions, excuse to give away awards to my administration, to my support staff, to my scientists, or anyone who has done anything which is worth recognition. I would be very liberal in giving awards because that would, uh, lead to much bigger outcomes and motivate people rank and file, and that would happen in the presence of everyone.
Mhm.
So I saw that that led to a lot of changes in my institute as long as I was the director, and I'm sure that this must be going on right now. Then I happened to start Society for Vector Ecology in India. It's a US based Society for Vector Ecology, and it was not in India. So I happened to be in Alaska, and Dr. Major Singh Dhillon, who was the executive director, he introduced to the board, he introduced myself to the board and said that he's from India. And if this society wants to open an Indian region chapter there. So, anyway, long story short, we started it in 2017. We had two international conferences, and we have several awards to give away. And these awards are named after the doyens in the research, and we choose very carefully whom to give awards. And so there are international awardees, there are national awardees, there are awardees who even write science or vector-borne diseases in as journalists.
Mhm.
So I mean, there is no substitute to encouraging people, to motivating people, and certainly your program that you are running here to recognize the scientist. I think you have given me a big award today while you are interviewing me.
Thank you.
That's my feeling about your program, and I am sure that you will not only empower this program more and more, and there are many ways, other ways to recognize the youngsters also in this program. Bring in young people also, bring in more women also. That will be really nice.
So, sir, at Researcher Celebrity, we do have these conversations starting from the master student who want to
Oh,
become a researcher at some point
great.
of their life. PhDs, postdocs, early faculties, and eminent scientists like you. Because what we believe at Empowering Science Foundation is there is nothing called a smaller or a bigger researcher.
Good.
Researchers, every single minute spent either on desk or on computer should be acknowledged. And with this, this is our way to give them a small token of appreciation that you existed. World should know about what you have done. It might
Excellent.
not be what coming up with a vaccine because, that is a huge thing, yes. But whatever
Great.
you have done, you have informed the world about your research, about your, results, which probably someone else in the distant world will use and will transform it into something else. The story
Yes.
of CRISPR, something like that. It was done, the technology was there, it is just one uh, or two persons who thought of implementing that to something else, and then now the rest of the world wants to do the same. Tool, as you mentioned, the tools has transformed so much that it has changed the research field by leaps and miles. And now what we are doing is was not even thought anyone would have thought of having these conversations recorded and then released. Like celebrating the researchers just 20, 30 years ago. If you are not a researcher, you probably are not even aware of it. But now
Excellent.
people in general public are talking about researchers, about scientists, because if we go like 40, 50 years ago, people used to think that scientists are those weird people, like images of Einstein with the head, with the
Yeah.
hair, and not aware of about anything. And in these conversation, I always say to everyone whosoever is listening to these conversation that researchers are as human as you are. It is just
That's
their observation which make them different, and the way they implement those observations. Because
that's
even the
true.
people who are not actively involved in research, they are making observations all day
Oh
and
yeah.
night.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
It is just the implementation
True.
which a researcher with the research focus. So
Very
now this
true.
brings us to the next most important topic of this conversation, that the amount of significance, what we'll say is like the freedom to a
Hmm.
young faculty, to a young PhD student, you should give, and how to make them disciplined. Because I feel, for coming from a lot of mentors, that now in this age, what they are feeling or facing the challenge with is bringing that discipline in this young enthusiastic brains which want to accomplish everything within their PhD.
To one thing is that now media is social media and other gadgets and tools. There are a lot of actually diversions young mind can have, and so one is that informing them about time management, about how to handle or how to gainfully spend their time and manage it, and how many hours of focused work is extremely important in order to be in science and fruitfully in science, and of course uh, be a successful scientist and make career out of it. So I think this discourse should be earlier. This was not required because people were very, I mean, students were very fearful of their mentors and they were also very disciplined. And now also there are very serious students I have come across. And but however, the overall distraction because of this, too much of uh, you know, see, social media and other things is making a huge difference. But I think, as I mentioned, if we have discussions with the students, the mentors repeatedly engage with them and see how they are productively using their time and of course, monitor their progress from time to time. This is one way to keep them, focused and disciplined. And there may be a few students out of the whole bunch who require this more and more. So one can be then, very selective about this. There can be a general talk, and there can also be pick and choose kind of a thing, wherein you uh, also reason out with these students as to, this is your golden phase, and this is a learning time, and you should make the most of it. And after all, you want to be the best out of the bunch that there is. So I think there is no other way of doing it other than this. And maybe, nowadays there are motivational speakers, there are time managers, there are people who, or TED talk, sometimes, TED talks, they tell you in short time very beautiful lessons they tell you. So those things can also be intentionally brought in. And if in the institution there is, or nearby there is a management institute, I mean, some experts can be brought in general, for the faculty and students to understand why this is important and how to manage their time well.
So
And
true.
that will help a lot. So I think this should be consciously done. Uh,
Absolutely. And so now, when we are walking towards the edge of this conversation, I would like to know your words of wisdom or to take away a message for the researchers at all the stages, starting from a PhD student to an early faculty to a director.
okay, fine. So let me tell you, first is that all subjects are very important. So if you have chosen a particular subject, give your maximum and rewards will be coming to you. Because at that time, when you are young, you do not know how your future will be. And I'm telling you from my experience that I have occupied positions which I had not even imagined. So rewards are there. It is how you shape up your career. Every stage of career, you have to be very careful. And you should make the right decisions at the right time. This is very, very important as far as career is concerned. The other thing is never get desperate. And if you get desperate, and never be over ambitious. If you are desperate or over ambitious, it brings a lot of stress on you, unwanted stress. Your due you will get. And as a zoology student, I have even mentored MBBS MDs as my PhD student.
Nice.
So you should never feel inferior to anyone, and people will also accept you as your mentor. I have been very lucky in becoming an advisor to WHO in two committees,
Mhm.
right? And not 1 year or 7, 8 years. Now also I am advisor to WHO in Geneva
Mhm.
in the disinfection of aircrafts, and as a zoology student, I have written a handbook for WHO, which is on surveillance and control at airports, ports, and ground crossings,
Mhm.
which is followed throughout the world as
Nice.
a handbook. And it
Mhm.
is available on the website and translated in 11 languages.
Nice.
When I started my career, I did not know I will do this.
Mhm.
As the years passed by, when the tree grows, ultimately it will bear fruits.
Yes.
And when it bears fruits, your branches should droop down to the earth. You become more and more humble,
Yep.
more friendly. And so the second stage is mid-career scientists should continue to do great work. First, up to 30 years of age, learning, education, then active research. While you are still learning, learning never ends.
Yeah.
From 30 to 50 years of age is active research, active, active, active. Then 50 years onwards, you become science administrator.
Mhm.
Then you impact the life of your colleagues when you are in a key position as a director and all that. And see the rewards when you do good things. I became outstanding young person of the world. Award was given to me in Philippines in 1998
Mhm.
based on research, and several 22 awards I have. Okay, small and big. So you will get your due. Then finally, even after my retirement from ICMR last year, I became pro vice chancellor of university, Saveetha University, which is A grade plus plus, NIRF ranking 11, and I'm scientific advisor to Chancellor. My journey is continuing because
Yes.
I believe that learning never ends.
So
Till
true.
you are alive, learning will be there.
Absolutely. With
And
yeah.
I have few things. Lastly, I would like to say that I have 11 P's to mention.
Mhm.
Word, I mean, start word starting with P. And that is perceive,
Mm-hmm.
should perceive what you want to do, then plan it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, prepare protocol, propose it
Mm-hmm.
for funding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then perform. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
carry out experiments,
So true.
right? And then analyze and publish,
So true.
patent it, protect it, IP,
Mm-hmm.
prototype, make prototypes.
Yeah.
Okay, make products.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing I don't want to say, but I have to say,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't do any of these, as a
Perish.
scientist, you cannot survive, you have to perish. And that is also key.
That is so true. That is so true. Thank you very much, sir. And we'll say to all the audience that keep these 11 P's, as sir mentioned, in your mind. Enjoy your research. Be passionate about it. If you need any, if you think that Empowering Science Foundation can help you in any way, you can directly write to Dr. Ashwini Kumar. As you have seen that he is a great mentor and obviously a torchbearer in the field of vector control in India and abroad. If you want us to put you in contact with our researcher celebrity, we are there to help you. With this, we'll say thank you so much, sir, for your time and the motivation for the next generation.
I'm very grateful to you, Dr. Kushwaha. And please contact me if you really want to take any, I would say, suggestion, not advice. I will be your friend in India. Please feel free. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
everyone.
Thank you. Stay tuned for another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Keep till then, enjoy your research.